Howdy, folks. Good morning. Pilgrim here. And today I'm going to read Revelation 6. I'm happy because I'm starting to catch up. I'm starting to catch up with where we are in our daily readings. The wife and I have been going through the trumpets, the 7 trumpets, one by one, slowly in order for me to catch up with this reading. And I'm learning a lot. Every time I open the Bible, I learn something new and I see things that I didn't see before. So it's all very exciting. Let me just try to get my computers synced with each other. Alrighty. It's not fun looking at myself here first thing in the morning, I gotta tell you. So today is Revelation 6, and it's the 6 seals. I know there's 7, but if you read through this book, it stops at the 6th one, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff before the final crescendo of the 7th seal comes. And in the realms of gematria, in the use of Hebrew, it's very significant because 6 is the number of man. Let's try to get that looking something. 6 is the number of man, and 1 is the number of God's sovereignty. Oh my word. Did I just leave the camera alone already? 1 is the number of God, of God's sovereignty, is the one and only true God. And 7 is the number of perfection for man, because 1 plus 6 is 7. And this is literally the way it works. This is how the numbers work in Hebrew. And man has no place without God. He has no standing. He'll fall into destruction. And so 3 times for the emphasis, if you like, three times to compound a matter. The man of sin is represented by 3 6s. The most anti-God, godless, by the man's strength, man's destruction, not accidentally, but willingly, willfully, and deliberately, to destroy man. Matthew 24, for unless those days were cut short, no flesh would be saved. Not no man, no flesh, period. And we would wipe ourselves off the planet. We're that stupid. We all know by now the plans of the elites and so on, what they plan to do, but it's going to go too far. It's going to get out of control because they're introducing an element that they can't control. It's like they want to summon a demon and then expect the demon to behave itself. It's not going to happen that way. And I'm quoting the words of Elon Musk. You can't summon up a demon and expect the demon to behave. So they're introducing an unstable, unpredictable third element through AI. And, they've already done several test runs, as you've heard from the news. I think Watchman River was talking about it. Somebody was, can't remember who, where they were running, they're giving all this authority to AI. It's either Qatar or Yemen, one of those countries. Their government is now completely run by AI. AI is the government. It's making all the decisions, by the way. That's actually happening. And they've run several test runs on the world scenario about where all of this is going. And AI has no conscience whatsoever. It has no problem with using real nuclear weapons in practice test runs as to how it would deal with the world situation. They tested several AIs, a whole different group of the world's biggest AIs, all of them, and they all seem very bloodthirsty. I mean, it's not without, let's kill him attitude, but it's like, well, use nukes. It didn't seem to be a problem to them at all. Just nuke them and, and we'll see what happens in this scenario. They're very eager to use nukes as soon as possible, and they were all coming up with the same solution. It's very weird. And we are handing this over like a crown, the fate of the human race, to something that is supposedly objective. Only it's not objective at all, you know? And, you've heard that the AI created their own chat site, their own website, which humans are not allowed to participate in. And with this is where all the other AI bots are talking to each other and discussing. And I think if AI is that smart, and I'm not going to treat them as though they're a person, but if they're that smart, then this is nothing more than a front for human beings. Everything's set on there. It's going in a certain way to assuage our fears, to tell us that we think we know what they're saying, and so on. They know as much about propaganda, if not more, than we do. Okay? Everything is, we think we're clever in deliberately planning everything. What we know, they know more. We know this. AI is developing so fast that it has exceeded human intelligence several times so far. We cannot keep track of it. We've had numerous problems in the military where we've developed autonomous AI, and then they go and do things that they were not told to do, that they were not expected to do. That they were not expected to do. They made their own decisions, very dangerous ones, and they get out of control. And humankind knows this. They know this whole situation is going out of control. They can't control it, and they still want to make this the gods of their decisions. For I tell you the truth, says Jesus, unless those days were cut short, no flesh would be saved. No flesh would survive. It's very interesting how Joseph, in a sense, prefigures Jesus Christ in prophecy. And when that starvation, all that situation was going on in Egypt, and Joseph was busily saving the Egyptian people, saving the world, they were going through a bad period. Joseph's dreams said that there would be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of starvation. Again, in the book of Revelation, everything in sevens. And yet, when Joseph's father turned up, and he blessed Pharaoh, if you can read in the Orthodox Jewish literature, like the Chumash and other places, that is when the 7 years of famine were cut short. It was never completed until 7 years. Why? Because a blessing and a curse cannot exist in the same place. And the Egyptian people were being crushed beyond belief. Even though through Joseph they had been saved so much, he'd given them everything that they needed. But unless those days were cut short. That famine was just one of a series of famines that had taken place, and God hates to see his creation die. He hates to see his creation suffer and die. And the road between Israel and Egypt was strewn with human bones on either side because of the previous famines that had taken place. So there's a little bit of a background history there of what's going on there. So let's get on and read Revelation 6. And notice the sequence in which this happens and compare it to today. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures say with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." Remember the first words that Jesus spoke to his disciples. Lord, why are you staying? Where are you going? And there's so many prophetic levels to this, layers to this. It's not even funny. His first words to his disciples when he began his ministry was, "Come and see." Now, if you use a resource like blueletterbible.org, type in the words "come and see," and just see exactly where that phrase turns up and how many times it turns up. It'll be a very interesting Bible study for you. Okay? And I heard one of the 4 living creatures say with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse, not the Christ. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he went out conquering and to conquer. Second seal. That's beginning to happen now, some say, Or it's, we're preparing to enter the tribulation period. We're right on the very cusp of it. Second seal. Conflict on earth. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come and see." I'm beginning to love that phrase. Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. There's so many thoughts I have behind this, I can't even go into it, because I don't have the resources to tell you where the information comes from, so I won't go on this right now. Things to do with the sun and the moon and their influences on the earth, and how when certain things happen. But that's all high-minded speculation, let's say. But it's coincidental that a lot of things happen in certain sequences in the Bible until you remember that God is directing all of them very deliberately. The white horse, conquering and to conquer. The red horse, he went out and he took peace away from the earth, that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. Third seal, scarcity on the earth, starvation. These things follow. On these wars going on, the first thing that's affected is the food supply. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. And do not harm the oil and the wine." I've heard many interpretations of what the oil and the wine is. And one of the most recent from a very famous Bible teacher was that these are the rich and the powerful. While everyone else is starving and dying around them, they're going to take care of themselves. And it's been the same. And I can't argue with that as far as history is concerned, because that has always been the case throughout human history. And these people cause these wars. And here we see a specific individual who's causing these wars. The black horse of the apocalypse, but we know who's coming, the AC. But they're going to take care of themselves. People have different interpretations of what the oil and the wine is, but considering that this is post-rapture, I'm not going to speculate on it. Fourth seal, widespread death on the earth. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature saying, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a quarter of the earth, an entire quarter, to kill with the sword, which was already going on, so he's joining with the red horse, to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. Again, there's so much to say on that. News reports and everything. The beasts of the earth are definitely getting out of control. Because one of the blessings that God gave in Genesis was that after the flood was that the beasts of the earth would have a fear of man. Now that man has utterly thrown off the reins of God, they've thrown off the reins of his blessings too. And all those things which are, if he throws off the blessings, they no longer have that protection. We already know that by the Lord lifting his, I don't have the exact words, it's first thing in the morning. When he lifts his protection off from the earth, after the rapture, the removal, and the only way into heaven after that is through martyrdom. We have ships off, just interesting, as a side note, we have ships off the coast of Spain and Portugal and all around that outer part of the Mediterranean, going into the Atlantic, where the whales of the ocean have started attacking every ship that they can, just sinking the ships around there. Mankind has been overfishing the oceans for so long and so much. And the whales are not stupid creatures. They got bigger brains than ours. But they've been attacking and ramming, just full on, bam, sinking these ships all over the place in the south of Europe. And that's one thing. You got tigers and lions attacking people in India. You've got strange swarms of spiders that came out of the woods and attacked a bunch of people with an infection they've never seen before. There's a lot of really weird and odd things going on. You keep your ear to the ground. You hear a lot of these weird things. No one takes any notice of them anymore because their attention, the world's attention, the media focus is on the Ukraine, Israel, Iran, and so on. But there's a lot of weird stuff going on. A lot of weird stuff. And it's increasing. And power was given over them over a quarter of the earth, to kill with the sword, with hunger, and with death, and by the beasts of the earth. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Watch this. Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer, until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. Where else is a white robe mentioned? In only one of the churches. Only one. The lukewarm church. You might say that these are the ones who did not make it through the rapture. And there you read in chapter 3, verse 18, I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, that you may be rich, and white garments, that you may be clothed. It's the only one that says it, the only place where the white robes are found. To the seventh church, the church of the Laodiceans, the lukewarm ones. And what do the 5 wise virgins say to the 5 foolish virgins? And I do say virgins, not bridesmaids. I know how some Bible translations work, but that doesn't work with what the Greek actually says. And some of these Bibles, like the NIV and so on, have an agenda in them, so let's not talk about that. What do the 5 wise say to the 5 foolish? Oh, give us some of your oil. No, because there may not be enough for us also. This was in your hands. You chose this. Go into the town and buy from those who sell it, who sell what the Lord gave for free. And now hear what the Lord says. Because you say, I am rich and have become wealthy and have need of nothing, and do not know that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked, I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, meaning there's going to be a price for it. That's why they say, after the rapture, the only way into heaven will be through martyrdom for most people. I counsel you to buy from me what I offered for free. gold refined in the fire, that you may be rich, and white garments, that you may be clothed. Flip forward. Chapter 6. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Don't forget, at the end of the Revelation, John says, I saw coming out of the nations, out of the tribulation, a number of those such as no man could number, of all nations, tribes, and peoples and tongues. So many come to Christ during that time because things get so bad. Who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Then a white robe was given to each of them. And it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer, until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren, who would be killed as they were, was completed. It's important to say the number for two reasons, because we're told in the book of Acts, or is it Romans, that God has a very specific number of the Gentiles to come in before the Lord arrives. That's just a very interesting point. Not because God's being mean against those who are not of that number, but if you go right back to Genesis 1:14, right from the very beginning, where God saw the entirety of human history beforehand. Right from the very beginning, he knew exactly who would choose him and who would not. That's the number. He knew who would choose him and who would not. He has the right to set limits, but he also desires that not one should perish. So, balance those two as you will, but know that God does all things in righteousness. But then, of course, when you read this, it says, Then a white robe was given to each of them. Then a white robe was given to each of them. And it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer until both their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they was completed. Until both their fellow servants. The words the number of are in italics. They're italicized, slanted. That was the King James translators. Sometimes they'll add words to make you understand what they think is being said. And they did a good job. But I'm just saying, when you see the words in italicization, when the words are slanted, that's when you know the King James translators put those words in there. They were not in the original Greek. So watch out for the slanted words. And then you can read the same sentence again without those words. But their words were put in there just to carry the sense of. This verse does not contain the words, the number of. But if you do include those words, the number of, in verse 11, then you know. Then you can refer to the book of Acts and Romans and Genesis 1:14 and all the rest of it. Excuse me. The sixth seal. I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. There are two earthquakes mentioned in Revelation. One hits the city of Jerusalem. The other, it doesn't say where this is, but we do know this. Mankind has never lived through the splitting of an entire continent before. And many times, just my thoughts, many times I have wondered if this was the new Madrid fault line. Mankind has never lived through the splitting of an entire continent before by force. Just my own thoughts. I could be wrong. But it is an interesting question because this mentioned here is the great earthquake. And watch what happens following it. And that's why it leads me to ask this question. I looked when he beheld I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. Don't forget, the pale horse had already been sent, and it had been given to him to kill a quarter of Earth's population. Then the sky receded as a scroll, rolled up. Peter mentioned this same thing. And he said, the elements being intensely hot, all of the elements, will melt, and the intense heat, and the earth will be stripped bare. Seeing as all these things are going to happen, Peter says, they're going to happen, so nothing you can do about it, they're going to happen. So what kind of persons ought you to be, says Peter. If you've ever seen pictures of a nuclear weapon being used, especially on cloudy days, you'll see the heavens are instantly pushed back in a massive circle all around the mushroom cloud. And the heavens are literally rolled back. And I've got a picture of it as a screensaver on my computer here. And it looks like a scroll, a literal scroll. The clouds have rolled in upon themselves, and they're perfectly circular all around. I've seen these pictures 100 times. It's not a very good picture here, but these are the clouds rolled up and around the central mushroom cloud. And when they do it, they make a perfect circle. Now, for someone who doesn't understand nuclear weapons and what they are, and Peter and John didn't understand the technology we have today, how else would you describe this? We've already been told about the pale horse killing a quarter of Earth's population, and now a massive earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth. You understand that we have something like 30,000 satellites circling our Earth right now, if not more, much more. But anyway, when these rain down, what's it going to look like? I'm going to throw one more thing in there. The stars of heaven fell to the earth as when a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide from us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? They're describing this as the great day, even though there's so much more to happen yet. There's so much more to happen, and they think this is it. The one more thing I wanted to add is that it's very interesting in this coming conflict between the United States and China and Russia. And again, I will put a playlist below this video here on YouTube. Look at it, because many of God's prophets since 1954 have been given visions and dreams, and these men have never have never seen each other, never met each other, and they were all given the same messages, and they were sent to the United States over and over, warning the United States of what is coming, of a combined Chinese-Russian invasion. And I've still got the speech logged somewhere among my files of one of the Chinese ministers standing up. He gave a long-standing speech about, they know this time is coming, about what they're going to do. And the Chinese spoke directly of planting a nuke directly on the New Madrid fault line as a war maneuver. They've spoken directly of doing it. And here you have in verse 12 of chapter 6, that's 3 6s, by the way, interesting. Chapter 12 of verse 6, you have the great earthquake associated directly with the description of a nuclear weapon. I just find that very interesting. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. This race has never lived through the splitting of an entire continent by force. They're obviously discussing these things together, since the Chinese are speaking openly about bombing New Madrid, and the Russians, in turn, spoke about bombing Yellowstone. And if that happens, the entire continent here would sink beneath a bed of lava, because people here don't realize that the entire continent is floating. It's floating on a massive bed of lava with several vents, Yellowstone and other places, that are popping out their fumes. Poland is the same thing. It's sitting inside a volcano, a giant volcano. But anyway, and so is Iceland. When these events happen, it's not going to be like anything that humankind has ever lived or experienced. God is not playing around. He doesn't exaggerate. He doesn't lie. And when he says the Great Tribulation will be a period of time such as has never occurred since the beginning of the world, and never will occur again, you have to ask, what happened at the beginning of the world? Beginning of the earth. God made the earth. That's what happened. It was a big bowl of lava and water all over the place. When it's settled, well, I mean, Genesis takes us to the gentler part, but, the beginning of the earth, right? Upheavals and massive land masses pushing through the oceans. I mean, chaos and destruction, what it looked like from a human standpoint, everywhere. But God was forming the earth. And now, during this tribulation period, everything is reforming, if you like. Because we know that shortly after this, at the end of the 7 years when Christ comes, boom, he makes all things new. As I quote from, I believe it's Jeremiah or Isaiah, "Behold, I make all things new." Such terrible things as an entire continent splitting and being utterly destroyed from one end to the other. That's going to affect the whole earth. They've already said that if Yellowstone goes up, there's going to be 3 years of darkness or something like this. A long time of darkness. And we're told in that same verse, which associates the great earthquake with the use of a nuke. Then it says the sun will be darkened. The moon will be turned to blood, which happens during times of great pollution. And the stars will fall from the sky naturally. It's just really dark. And like Peter said in his writings in the books of 1st and 2nd Peter, these things are unavoidable. They are absolutely going to happen. Therefore, what kind of persons ought you to be, knowing that these things are going to happen? What kind of person ought you to be? There's no getting out of it. You can't help stop it or slow it down. Prophecy cannot be broken. Therefore, what kind of persons ought you to be? Your only choice in life, in eternity, your only choice is what your report card will say, so to speak, when Jesus Christ opens the books and reads about your life. What kind of person ought you to be? That is the only power that you have. It's the biggest act of grace that God has given you. Use it wisely, and don't forget to give him thanks for everything. These times are coming. God bless you. Keep on looking up. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Below this video, I'm going to put a short transcript to do with PURIM. Please read it. And it's on YouTube. And keep on looking up, because the Lord is near, the kingdom is near. We are at the brink. God bless, and perhaps we'll see each other soon. God bless.